Hey listeners, welcome back to this episode of Spectacular Science. I'm your host, Akshay. In this episode, I'm going to be answering some hurricane questions. Well, one of those questions, and a very big question, is why is there a specific hurricane season? And why doesn't it just happen anytime? Well, in this episode, I'm going to take you on an adventure to explore the science of hurricanes and answer some of these mind-boggling hurricane questions. Let's go! So, let's break down how hurricanes are formed and what they are in the first place. Hurricanes are very powerful storms that form over the warm ocean waters, and these storms can be very powerful when they hit land, and they can cause lots of wind damage, lots of rain, and storm surge and flooding. Let's break down how these hurricanes are formed. First, you need warm waters, and these warm waters are usually found near the tropics and close to the equator, like the Gulf of Mexico or off the coast of Africa. This is the main breeding ground for many of the powerful hurricanes that hit the US. Now, we have that warm water, and what happens when water is very warm? It starts to evaporate. And as it evaporates, it starts to condense in the atmosphere to form lots and lots of storm clouds. And that's a lot of moisture. Moisture is just how much water is in the air. And the more water there is, the more powerful the storm will be. Now, they're just small storms when they first start out, and they're known as tropical depressions, but they can grow very big as they glide across the warm waters near the equator and the tropics. As soon as they do that, they turn to tropical storms because all that evaporation and condensing that causes lots of wind and lots of rain to occur. And that just keeps building up the fuel for the hurricane. Then, when the hurricane makes landfall, or when it approaches a piece of land, it'll start to weaken a little bit because there's no warm water to fuel the hurricane. It's just land. And when that happens, when it makes landfall, is when all the damage is dealt because on land, there are people living there, there's so many things on land, and all that power is just unleashed on the land. And that is how hurricanes are formed. In the US, Florida is known for the most hurricanes. But why are certain areas on Earth known for more hurricanes to happen? Well, that is all location. You see, Florida is located near the Gulf of Mexico, one of the hot spots for hurricanes to form, and it's also pretty much in the tropics, and it's near the tropics, and the water around Florida is very warm. It also has a very large coastline, meaning that the hurricanes can immediately impact the coastline, and they don't have to cross any more land that will weaken them. It's all about location. Cities that are located near the coast are hit hard because of these hurricanes. That's what location has to do in hurricanes. Now that we know how hurricanes are formed and why certain areas have greater impacts to hurricanes, let's answer the question, why is there a hurricane season? Well, there's a hurricane season because remember, one of the criteria for hurricanes to form is warm water. So during this specific hurricane season, especially in North America and those areas in the Caribbean, it's really important because those areas near the tropics and the equator are the warmest in that time of year. And that causes more hurricanes to form. If there weren't seasons and temperature fluctuations, yes, hurricanes could happen anytime, anywhere. But since there are specific seasons, that means that there's different temperatures of the ocean surface, and that causes water to evaporate slowly or faster. And that's what causes a hurricane season. And this hurricane season also helps people prepare, especially people who live along the coastline and on islands. It helps them prepare for hurricanes that come their way. And meteorologists and weather scientists from a long time ago to now, they're still uncovering why there's a hurricane season and more information about these hurricanes. It's so cool to think that even though we know so much about hurricanes, there's still a lot more to find out about hurricanes, and our predictor technology is getting better day by day. Let's review what we learned in this episode. In this episode, we learned that hurricanes are formed when warm water near Africa or around the equator and tropics, when it evaporates and condenses into clouds, and that warm water fuels more of that moisture in the air, which causes hurricanes to form more quicker. hurricanes have a specific season because the water in those areas are warmer at that time of year. Especially in North America, the hurricane season is very important because it helps people stay safe. And since the water is hotter, that makes hurricanes more likely to form in those certain areas. And that helps people predict hurricanes and also to stay prepared and steer clear of these hurricanes. Thank you so much for listening to this episode of Spectacular Science. Spectacular Science is produced and hosted by me, Akshay J. Raman. Our theme song and additional music are by Chan Ramachandran. Don't forget to check out my website, spectacularsci.com, for interactive activities, articles, and blog posts. So that's spectacularsci.com. Also, don't forget to check the links in the description below for more information about activities and articles and some of our new updates, including the Spectacular Science Fun Fact Generator. Also, don't forget to subscribe to this podcast and share this podcast with your friends and family. Subscribe and share this podcast with your friends and family. It really means a lot. Thank you so much. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you on the next episode of Spectacular Science next week. Keep thinking about science!